If you were to ask an old school gamer about some of the best games on the Super Nintendo and N64, many will point to the games developed by Rare. The British studio was a company that many old school gamers saw as synonymous with Nintendo, especially during the N64 era, for their games like Donkey Kong Country, Banjo-Kazooie, and Goldeneye 007. If anything, Rare was a company that kept the N64's head above water, when the system was losing major support over its decision to continue using cartridges. Unfortunately, in 2002, Microsoft purchased Rare from Nintendo after the company was put for sale following Nintendo's disinterest in buying out the company. This was due to the fact that game development was becoming more expensive, and Nintendo wasn't providing enough money for Rare to keep going. But due to Nintendo not being interested in buying the remaining shares of the company, as they only owned 49%, Rare had to look elsewhere, and Microsoft was the one who was most willing to support them. The buyout from Microsoft coincided with major turbulence that would plague Rare throughout the entire 2000s, one of which included Rare having to rework or cancel their major Nintendo projects. Some managed to survive the process, like Donkey Kong's Coconut Crackers and Diddy Kong Pilot, either becoming new IPs or parts of other franchises. However, not all of these projects will survive the reworking process, such as the subject for today's video. It was going to be a showcase of the impressive new technology of the GameCube, in the guise of a racing game with a franchise that helped build Rare into such an iconic company. But following the buyout, Rare would spend many years trying to rework the game into a possible new entry for an old school franchise, only for the project to disappear altogether. It was a promising game that just could not materialize. So, today on Beta Quest, I present to you Donkey Kong Racing and Sabreman Stampede. Yeah, don't forget about that one. That's important. In E3 2001, we were presented with a CGI trailer for a new racing game starring the Donkey Kong crew, implied to be a loose sequel to Diddy Kong Racing, and would be coming out sometime in 2002. Titled Donkey Kong Racing, the demo, which sadly showed no gameplay, showcased the Donkey Kong crew riding on top of their animal buddies in various environments, such as a jungle and some underwater environment. The demo showcased several classic Donkey Kong characters, including Diddy and Kiddy Kong, the DKC animal buddies, and the surprising return of the most obscure character from the series, Donkey Kong! What a surprise. Gameplay seemed to suggest an arcade racer with a Space World 2001 panel developed for the game, revealing that each ride had different abilities depending on the type and size of the animal, so big animals could smash through objects while small animals would be easier to control. Players will be able to switch rides during the races and would also be able to upgrade and train their animal rides by collecting foods and prizes, suggesting a Tamagotchi element, likely because Tamagotchi was popular at the time. And I assume the prizes will be more effective than the foods. Falling off of your rides was to be a feature as well, where players could get knocked off of their rides and have to get back on by rapidly tapping a button. And apparently multiplayer was going to be a feature as well. Not surprising considering the type of game this is. The demo for this new racer also promised to give us hectic racing action, impressive animations, and dynamic and lush environments, which would later be elaborated upon in the Space World panel, with intentions of incorporating all sorts of features only possible with the GameCube, such as realistic environment physics, more open-ended environments, which sounds like Sonic R in a way, real-world phenomenon, whatever that means, more realistic shadow effects, and a fully orchestrated soundtrack. There's also some concept art that was leaked for the game, such as a photo of Rambi and Diddy, and a concept piece that suggests the inclusion of traditional vehicles. This image also showcases some of the other confirmed characters, such as Taj the Genie and Cranky Kong. Unfortunately, this is all the information that existed about the game, as the E3 trailer and the panel for Space World 2001 was all that was ever made, as the aforementioned Microsoft buyout in 2002 would ultimately put a stop to all Nintendo-themed projects. It didn't even seem like development on Donkey Kong Racing even got that far, since the buyout would have slowed development on most Rare games at the time, minus them rushing Star Fox Adventures out, which will be a subject for another day. But this doesn't mean that development on this game ended because of that buyout. Oh, don't worry, I'll be coming for you. Sometime in 2003, a trademark for the name Sabreman Stampede will be registered as a game for the original Xbox, and the name began to spread around the gaming community, coinciding with Rare announcing a new Untitled racing game around the same time. Speculation began to arise that this name was tied to a reworked version of Donkey Kong Racing, replacing the Donkey Kong characters with the characters from, or related to, Sabreman. Now hold on a frack second, man. Who in the world is Sabreman? Well, calm down, don't be so hostile. Sabreman is a character from the early days of Rare as a company, back when they were called the amazing name of Ultimate Play the Game. He was a hunter in very old school style hunting clothes who would explore jungle environments in a top-down perspective, often having to deal with the evil wolf character of Sabrewulf, that character who would also appear in Killer Instinct. He appeared in several games on computers like the Amstrad CPC and MSX, such as Sabrewulf, Night Lore, and Pentagram, but he was ultimately phased out when the company, ultimately renamed Rare, fully joined in with Nintendo in the console business, although he and Sabrewulf would make occasional appearances in later games. Anyway, new trademark, new Untitled racing game. People think this is Donkey Kong Racing under a new name, and it was kind of confirmed with an anonymous March 2004 interview with Rare's PR manager. The PR manager, when questioned whether Donkey Kong Racing was cancelled or not, essentially said yes and no, in that the game was so heavily transformed that it's not even the same game anymore, but that the project would still be coming out in some form or another, and asked gamers to wait and see, referencing the trademark name that was unofficially floating around the internet for a while. Unfortunately, due to the secretive nature of Rare and some other issues I'll mention later, info on Sabreman Stampede remained pretty much non-existent, until a series of leaked videos were put up on YouTube in 2008, which was a little too late, but we'll get to that. The videos show a radically transformed game, no longer the energetic racing game we were shown back in 2001. Sabreman Stampede had fully transformed into a full-fledged action-adventure platformer hybrid. Well, Donkey Kong Racing transformed into this, but you get the point. The videos showcased a platformer adventure game with an open world, or at least very huge levels, with a very diverse and dynamic series of environments, from fully populated villages to ancient ruins to jungles to Arctic worlds, among many more. The only thing recognizable from Donkey Kong Racing seemed to have just been the ability to ride animals, and I believe there were reports that the mechanics around the animals were somewhat maintained, with the intention being for Sabreman Stampede to essentially be a kiddie version of a Grand Theft Auto game, which would have been sick. However, the videos showcase the additional ability to shoot a rope gun at animals to catch them, no doubt something that could upset animal rights activists, and needing to play some type of rodeo minigame to tame the animals when you mount them. Destroying your environment was also an ability shown in the videos, likely also a leftover from Donkey Kong Racing, where players could knock over trees with giant animals, as well as burn down buildings. Well, screw GTA, this sounded better! Concept art revealed other things, such as various characters and enemies, some type of stealth mechanic where players had to hide from powerful enemies, perhaps, and other environments like this swampy island fort place? I don't really know what that is. A draft of the story was also provided, where Sabreman and his wife Flo crash landed onto this mysterious place, and the two have to survive on the island by aiding the villagers and using various animals to get around the place. Which doesn't really sound much of a story, but okay then. There's just a lot of concept art to this game, that's kind of expected, but it reveals quite a bit of stuff, like this plane crash site which could have been your home base. There's a bunch of ruins, there's a bunch of temples, there's this weird spire structure which is pretty fascinating. There's all these weird characters as well, such as this pirate hippo thing, and this, what on earth is this? This nude old man? That's just rare. And that's pretty much all the info I can pull about this game. So, what happened to it? Unfortunately, albeit not surprisingly, Sabreman Stampede was running into development hell, struggling to materialize together. The Sabreman team, as the developers were called, were running into constant roadblocks that were causing the development on Sabreman Stampede to progress very slowly with little direction or focus. In the project's early days as a racing game, following the swapping of characters from Donkey Kong to Sabreman, the project progressed far enough to prototyping stage. However, when a prototype was presented to Microsoft, the project was criticized for being too old school for the revolutionary experiences Microsoft wanted to provide their audience, despite Microsoft buying Rare for those old school experiences, but whatever. This is what resulted in the major shift in direction for Sabreman Stampede, from the racing game to the kiddie GTA platformer we saw in those videos, but even that phase was marred with a lack of focus. This was when the game entered development hell, with a very lengthy period of developers throwing together ideas in a desperate attempt to get the project to progress, all while listening to Microsoft's demands to modernize the project, but this process would ultimately prove fatal in the end. In 2004, another roadblock would strike Sabreman Stampede when it was decided to port Cameo and Perfect Dark Zero from the original Xbox to the upcoming Xbox 360, which coincided with the decision to move the development of Sabreman Stampede to the 360 as well. However, the Cameo team was short on resources and had to acquire members from the Sabreman team to help finish the job, resulting in Sabreman Stampede having to be put on hold for the time being, and why we couldn't wait and see for a new game. Once the porting of Cameo was completed and the games were released in 2005, Sabreman Stampede's development resumed as normal. But it was not normal. The game was just not coming together, with Microsoft continuing to ask for various changes and evolutions to the project to modernize the game over the years, and after about an extra year or so of this stuff, the game would ultimately just be cancelled. Microsoft's constant interference in Sabreman Stampede's development to modernize and change the game, plus those other roadblocks, result in nothing about this game ever coming together. There was just no direction or consolidation of ideas that allowed for the game to progress, and it ultimately just fizzled out and disappeared, until those videos leaked. Which was why it was too late. The game was cancelled when those videos leaked. So, yeah. But that was Donkey Kong Racing and Sabreman Stampede. It's pretty unfortunate to see this game not only go through development hell like this, but to ultimately be cancelled in the end. Both Donkey Kong Racing and Sabreman Stampede sound like amazing games, with the first being this amazing, crazy arcade racer with Tamagotchi elements and amazing technical abilities, and the second being this advanced kiddie GTA platformer adventure hybrid game. These games sounded amazing, and I would have loved them, being a fan of both arcade racers and GTA-style open-world games. But then again, if a lack of focus is what killed the project, would this have reflected in a potentially released game? A game that had no idea what it wanted to be? It does happen, and we've seen this happen before. I know the feeling all too well myself. But regardless, Microsoft's constant interference to make Sabreman Stampede this modern experience is what killed this project in the end. And unfortunately, it's not the only example of corporate interference destroying a project. But we'll get to those other examples someday. This is K Steel with Beta Quest signing out. I will see you all later. This was a Kobalt Steel video by MS Bernie. Like, comment, and subscribe if you liked what you saw. Until next time, see you all later.